Hello, everyone. Good morning. Hopefully, you're not too hungover this morning after your night last night. So I'm Drew, and I have been someone who has been interested in travel for many years. And I'm going to start with a little bit of story about me and kind of where things have kind of come from and where they are going. So I'm going to go to the next slide, Holly. All right, so in May in 2011, I was on a humanitarian trip with a group of students in Lima, Peru. We were working in some of the shanty towns there doing some social justice work. So we were giving immunizations, we were building staircases, we were doing a magnitude of stuff from dental health campaigns to head lice campaigns. So we were in Lima for about 8 days before we went to Cusco and visited Machu Picchu. And so the day of May 7th, I was at Machu Picchu, and we were, that's where I kind of got the goal to visit all 7 wonders. So I went from that goal back to Lima, and it was the last day before we flew home from our adventure and work that we were doing, and we decided that we were going to go to the beach for a little relaxation before we flew home. So on May 10th, 2011, we arrived at the beach, and about 45 minutes after getting to the beach, I was swimming in the ocean, and a large wave pulled me under, crashed me off the ocean floor, fractured my C4 vertebrae, and caused me to drown. But I am here today. I did not let that stop me. It's been a long road. So after the drowning, I had to be revived on the beach prior to be transferred to a clinic in Peru. And from there, I was transferred into an American hospital for 4 days before being airlifted back to Kingston General Hospital, where I spent 16 months in the intensive care unit. And then I spent 3 years at a rehab facility and moved home to an accessible house that my family had built for me in 2015. So the picture on the left here was me at Machu Picchu, and then the picture on the right was me the first time I was able to get outside after my accident. So that was on June 7th, so a month in between. So that is kind of what happened. We'll go to the next slide, Holly. I have been told that I was told I was never going to walk again. I can't breathe on my own. I am on a ventilator, so I live on life support. So the doctors had said that travel probably was not going to be possible either. But when people tell me that I can't do something, I will focus on proving them wrong. And so that is what I have done. So my goal that I set was to visit all 7 wonders. So I had checked off Machu Picchu 3 days before my accident, and then I went to Mexico in January of 2016 to visit Chichen Itza. It was my first trip after my accident, and it was a huge learning experience, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then I also, went to Vancouver last summer, and so I have not let the disability stop me in life from traveling. I did not let it stop me from getting my degree in hotel and food administration from the University of Guelph in 2016. And so I continue to push forward to make travel more accessible for all. It is definitely one of the biggest things that I've pushed for lately and worked towards, and that's continuing what I am planning on doing. So the accessible travel industry is reported to be worth $205 billion by 2025. So that is just accessible travel. The market itself consists of a total of approximately 1 billion people in this world living with disabilities. So this is a huge market that is underrepresented and it is forgotten about. People have not really put much thought into it. When I have been planning my trips, it has been trying to figure out exactly how to do things on my own. I've had to learn how to do things my own way and learn how there's never been like a guidebook for how to travel with a disability, especially when there is so much variance in disability itself, from like a very minuscule disability or an invisible disability all the way to a disability like myself where it's a full-on 24/7 caregivers and everything along those lines. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about two of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to travel. My two big pet peeves are hotel rooms. So one of the biggest things that I've faced is when I get to a hotel room, I need to know whether or not there's a 6-inch clearance underneath the bed. Because I have to use a Hoyer lift to get out of bed and out of my chair into the bed and so forth. And then the second thing I'll talk about is how on an airplane I have to transfer into a plane seat and we're not able to stay in our wheelchairs when we travel. Next slide. So a little bit of a story about my first trip to Mexico and trying to experience how to transfer into a plane seat from my wheelchair. So we were headed to Mexico from Toronto. We were flying with Air Transat, and they had a portable Hoyer lift that went down the aisle. So we transferred me from my chair onto this lift system. They took me down the aisle to where my seat was. And then we got to my seat. It had a stationary armrest. The armrest did not go up. And because I'm 6 feet tall, I had the issue of not being able to just slide over the armrest. They couldn't get me any higher in the lift. So my care attendants and my staff, and the staff of the airline had to firemen lift me over the armrest and into my plane seat. So that was the first part of that experience that was not the most effective. It was very rough. It was all not very done gracefully. Once we had arrived in Mexico, that was a totally different story. They had no lift, and they tried to just carry me off the plane. So when they did so, my vent ended up popping off, my pants ended up around my knees, and my bum was basically on the floor while they were trying to get me off the plane. So that was my first experience flying internationally and commercially since my accident. So on the way home, we figured out how to properly transfer me. So I use an aisle chair. So next slide. I like to say it's kind of like a bit of a bondage device once I'm all strapped up, because them all strapped in every way possible that they can. I can basically only fit one bum cheek on the width of the chair, so it's not very big. But this has now been the way I travel when I try to fly. So anything when it comes to travel now, transfer-wise, it's always in use with the aisle chair because it has become the best option for when I transfer. So now this is one of the biggest problems that is being faced with the airline industry now, is that there is a push to be able to stay in your wheelchair and not have to worry about transferring. There's a lady named Michelle Irwin, and she is fighting to help increase the need for people to stay in their own wheelchair while traveling, and that it is a safety issue for the patients or the clients themselves when it comes to having to transfer the chair. Luckily, myself, I'm very aware of my body. I know exactly how my body works, and I know what I can handle and what I cannot handle. But if you're trying to fly, so she has a young boy who is wheelchair bound, and so she has not been able to fly with him because they cannot transfer him out of his chair. She has been advocating for that over the last 4 or 5 years now, and so I have a short clip on the solution to this problem. So this is a short clip about how the aisle chair and being able to sit or being able to remain in your own wheelchair is possible on an airplane. So these restraints that they use to tie down the chair, I use them every day when I travel in my own vehicle, and they also are used under the plane to hold the cargo. So if they're being used to hold the cargo in place while flying, they should be safe to use while holding a wheelchair or flying. So that is kind of the solution to the problem that we are trying to reach. So now the biggest issue with it is trying to get the airlines on board and also the airline manufacturers for the plane manufacturers on board to come up with this solution so that those with disabilities who are wheelchair bound do not necessarily have to get out of their chair. So that is my first major issue that I've had while traveling. So my second pet peeve while I travel is my lift not fitting under my bed. So because there is about a 6-inch, 6 inches that I need to fit the lift under the bed, it is always a bit of an issue. My solution to it that I use is I have 4 wooden blocks that I take with me when I travel and have to lift the bed frame up and do all the maneuvering myself. The biggest thing with this is not one hotel room is the same. My hotel room here last night and stuff, it was not very accessible. It was very crowded and small, not much room to maneuver the lift and my wheelchair and me in and out of bed. We had to kind of figure things out as we go, which is kind of always the situation when traveling with a disability, is that no 2 situations are going to be exactly the same. There are always going to be some sort of difference, something that happens and something that is not going to be expected to happen. Luckily, the only thing that was accessible with my hotel room here was the fact that my lift didn't did fit under the bed, which we weren't sure. So when I called, because we were originally put in another room and the lift didn't fit under that bed. So we were not sure if we had to use the blocks or not, but in the end we didn't. So that is kind of the big issue when it comes to that. And so for a solution to this problem, next slide. This is the Hoyer lift. This is what I use to get in and out of bed. This is what I use to get into my chair, all of that. So for a solution, the easiest solution to come up with, and it's not an expensive one, is for hotel companies and businesses that offer rooms to be able to purchase one of these. So if they would have these on site, they would know that they have, okay, we need this much clearance under the bed. They're only $2,000 investment, so it's not like you're putting a lot of money down on them. It's the fact that now and they're portable, so you only have to have one in your hotel, and to make sure that your bed frames and your beds in your accessible rooms are confitted to what the lift has for clearance underneath of it. So that's the main solution when it comes to that. That's the easiest solution to go forward with, and the easiest way to create a solution that is not extremely expensive. So that is kind of my two main pet peeves when it comes to traveling. So like when I have to travel, I have to bring this with me. So I have to take that with me on the plane. I have to take that where I'm going. So it's not easy either. Like there's extra luggage. I have probably luggage for 5 people when I travel. Like it's not like I just can grab a bag and go. It's a lot of stuff that has to be taken with me. And now I just want to talk a little bit about the stigma of body image in the gay community and LGBT community, because it has definitely been an eye-opener. So at the time of my accident, I had just turned 20. So I was already living as a gay man with an able body. So it has definitely been, I've lived both sides of everything. So I have gone from being that person who is able-bodied, in shape, 6 feet tall, and being able to kind of have that going for me to being someone in a wheelchair who cannot move anything in their body, and their body, you can't really control any of it. So go to the next slide. So obviously there is basically a whole animal kingdom of things that gay men can classify themselves under, whether that's a bear, an otter, a wolf, a twink. So like there's a whole chart that is a main focus of things. But the main thing is, so my struggles with body image. So this is prior to my accident. I had always struggled with body weight and image. So prior to my accident, the photo on the left there is from the end of my first year university. That was after living in residence for a year and gaining the freshman 15 and being a little bit overweight. And so I fought with that for a while. I moved out west to Banff and worked there for the summer, and then came home 40 pounds lighter because I was outside hiking and doing all the outdoor stuff. So I have also been, when it comes to body image, has been, I've gone from both sides of things as well. So it's been a big learning experience that not everything is going to be accepted. There's always going to be different visions on what body image is. And now when it comes to issues since my accident, I have also had two extremes. I have gone, so after my accident, I dropped down to 140 pounds at 6 feet. So it drops right down, skin and bones, not healthy looking at all. And then also after I lived in a hospital for 4 years, I had gained a fair bit of weight because they just constantly are feeding you, and that's all you can do in a hospital. And so I jumped up to about 235 pounds before leaving the hospital and moving home. After that, I have now dropped back down to roughly around 200 pounds and am comfortable kind of with where my body is now. But as you can see, the extremes are very different, and the thing with my body now is I can't control it in any way. I have no way to exercise. I have no way to, the only way I can control body is by eating healthy, that sort of stuff. There's no exercise involved. There's no easy way to just say, okay, I'm going to go to the gym and work out. It's not that easy. It's all about kind of moderating yourself and making sure that you are able to kind of just be have the willpower to focus on your options. So I did a little bit of an experiment last night while I was in the hotel. So I had used my Grindr page profile, and I had sent out 13 messages to people in Toronto. And my profile shows that I have a disability, and I received a total of 3 responses back. So the body image side of things is definitely an issue and something I've faced over the years, and even when trying to figure out it has definitely been a learning experience, especially in the beginning. When I was trying to meet people, I started out by not disclosing that I was disabled at first, and wanted to let them get to know the person before the disability, because you obviously see the disability first and don't get to know the person itself. So that has kind of been my whole aspect and perspective on body image within the community, and there is definitely ups and downs. There are going to be those people that don't want to communicate or don't want to learn, because it is a learning experience. It's a learning of things. So it definitely is something that I try to educate people on as well, because there are a lot of issues around that, and body image is very predominant in the community, and that's something we have focused on. So it's definitely been an issue. Okay, so this year I have decided to take on another role as directing a documentary. So I'm directing my first documentary with the help of my cousin Chris Wynn, who was nominated for a Canadian Screen Award for his documentary that was produced last year about Alzheimer's. So we are creating a documentary about wheelchair accessible travel and accessible travel in itself. as we venture on to check off the third wonder on my list, the Colosseum. So we are headed to London, Rome, and Paris in November to check off the Colosseum off the list, and we are showcasing all of the areas of accessible travel that we have to plan out, because you have to plan rigorously, very in depth about travel with a disability. It's not just one bag that you can take with you, it's 10 bags. So it has definitely been a big learning experience. So I thought I would share with you guys the trailer for our documentary. And in 2018, I find that there are a lot more opportunities for people who are living with disabilities, and that there are a lot of people that are also stuck in the mindset that they are not able to do certain things because of their disability. For me, traveling is more focused on culture and learning new cultures, because that is the best way to immerse yourself into the culture of that country, and not be necessarily just traveling, say, to a resort. The reason why I want to make this film is so that people are able to see that traveling is not something that is off the table. If you have a disability, it is something that you are able to do. It just has to be planned out, organized, and figured out exactly what way you are going to do it. I can do this, and I'm not going to let this disability hold me back from accomplishing my goals in life. Next slide. Thank you, everyone. Also, if you are ready, if your business is ready to take the next step in creating accessible travel, I'm free to talk to you after this session to figure out if we can come up with some strategies to help make your business accessible and able to allow for accessible travel. So that is something that I focus on as the accessible travel expert, and focus on creating experiences and products and services that are focused on accessibility and making sure that you are able to get your hand in the pot when it comes to that $205 billion that is expected by 2025. Thank you.